Moses and Jesus and Muhammad. May God's peace and prayers be upon them all. And I started this way, as I always do when I give the Jummah khutbah, to underline the universality of Islam. And the fact that it's not an isolated religion, but it's part of a chain that is linked together. And it came to bring people's hearts and minds, regardless of what they call themselves, under one kind wing, the wing of love. I have a wonderful man, young man, who accepted Islam, and I asked him, Rick, why did you accept Islam? He said, you know, at the age of 13, I read, he's very intellectually bound. He's a big law firm partner for Warren Buffett and so on. And I said, why did you accept Islam? He said, you know, I read all religions. The only religion that did not take away from me the teachings of Moses and the teachings of Jesus, and in fact, it presented a wonderful wing that covered me completely. It was Islam. And this is the spirit that we want to come in. And this is the spirit that we started our work in the United States in the area of riba-free banking and finance. And tonight, I want to tell you the story of how we started. I will talk about some slides that I have prepared, but I would like to make it personalized because I want to share with you an important fact that says there is nothing impossible in this life. You are going to be as big as your vision and as your dreams. There's nothing impossible. And you know, your dreams are dynamic. They do not stay static. They keep growing and getting bigger and bigger. And those who will be the winners are the people who will never give up, ever. They will fall and stand up again and start over and over until they achieve their goal and dream. And I am reminded of the story of the pessimist and the optimist. Family had two kids. One was an optimist, that was John, and one was a pessimist, that was Dick. So, you know the story? Or the story was that they had them challenged, and they said, John Ray, I've got something for you. I've got something valuable in a container full of horse manure. And they left them, and he came back after half a day, and he went to Dick, the pessimist, and he was crying, sitting in the corner of the room. You know, I'm always unlucky. I'm always getting the short end of the stick. I'm always treated this way, complaining and complaining. And he said, Dick, you know, you got to try. I said, no, Mom, that's my luck. I always am this way. And he went to the next room for John, optimist. And John was digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And so Mom said, John, what are you doing? He said, Mom, don't waste my time. I'm digging. He said, why? He said, Mom, with all this horse manure, there must be something good inside. And I got to find it. And that is the spirit of optimism, the spirit of hard work, the spirit of a vision. And your vision will not be the same. I mean, we are different people with different backgrounds, with different aspirations, and I hope that we all have a vision, especially at your wonderful age, because the sky is your limit. You have a tremendous future ahead of you. So this is what I wanted to start with. I live in Los Angeles, California. I came from Egypt originally. I went to America in 1968, almost 50 years ago. And I lived in many states in the United States. I am trained as a chemical engineer, an oil man. I did my master's and PhD in chemical engineering at the University of Wisconsin, and then went to work for an oil company, and I did an MBA in international finance, and I got really captured. My imagination was captured by money. how money is formed, how they print money, and the monetary aspects of money, and so on and so forth. And then by mere coincidence, and there's a message here, stay loose. Stay loose, like they say in America. What do we mean by staying loose? If an opportunity offers itself, don't reject it. Pick it up and go. So here's an engineer with a major oil company getting a phone call from the World Bank saying, well, would like to have a fellow with your background and the economics and the banking and the monetary background that you have to open a bank in Kuwait. So I went for a year to open a bank in Kuwait and came back in the oil industry and so on and so on and so forth. And then we started LARIBA. And when we started LARIBA in 1987, we started in California. The seeds for it were actually sowed back in 1971 when we moved, my family and I, from Madison, Wisconsin to Dallas, Texas, the Cowboys, right? And it was actually Thanksgiving, November, exactly the same days that we're living now, but back in 1971. And I don't like to have a Friday prayer miss me. I feel very miserable if that happens to me. So I go around asking people, where is the Friday prayer? They said, we don't do Friday prayer in Dallas. 1971. And so I started calling, and I taught my two daughters, I have two daughters, one is 45 and one is 41. Now it gives away my age, right? I'm 71 years old. So, well, I'm still running and having fun. So, and I've got 5 grandkids, boys, all boys. We specialized in girls, and they specialized in boys. So my wife, the grandma, is having fun running after the boys and tells me, why do they fight with each other? Why do they call each other names? Why do they push and shove? I said, well, honey, this is what the boys are. So you must be lucky not to have boys when you were young. But make a story short, we wanted to do Friday prayer. So I taught my daughters in all of our travels that anytime you arrive in a city, you pick up the phone book. There was no internet, Google, and all the good stuff that you have now. You pick up the phone book and look for Khan, K-H-A-N. And Mr. Khan most likely will know where the message is. All right? Probably 90% of it. So we picked up the phone and we found Mr. Khan, Dr. Khan, actually. And I said, Dr. Amanullah Khan, what happened? So, well, no message because we're afraid of discrimination and so on. And we held the first Friday prayers in a park, and 2 prayed. One was the imam, and one was the person who prayed behind him. Well, of course, everybody criticized us. Oh, the Sharia requires you to have 3 at least. I said, when we have 3, we'll have 3, but we now have 2. Now, this 2, today, we have in Dallas, Texas, at least 28 Islamic centers. One of them is the largest in America, which has a full-size basketball arena, Olympic size, air-conditioned in the city of Texas. It cost about $8.5 million to build, all based on our resources. We do not go hand in hand to beg. And this is a wonderful thing we learned in America, is to be self-reliant, put your money where your mouth is, and that's why we're very happy to say that our movement, our work is independent. Nobody can pull strings on us, right? And I hope you will do that, inshallah. So that's the story. So we community grew from 2, became 20, 30, 100, 150, and then we wanted to buy our own place. And that's detailed in the book. We wanted to buy our own place, and well, people who knew their way to the bank said, oh, go to the bank and we'll borrow the money. And then the thing erupted. But this is not accepted in Islam. Taking a loan with interest is not accepted in Islam. And that was the beginning of a long journey that culminated with me coming here to tell you what I call the experience of 28 years. In 1987, we started LARIBA. And LARIBA means no riba, or no interest, or no usury, for those guests who have not been introduced to it. And we started in 1987 and went to the Department of Corporations, and we weren't sure if it's going to be accepted or not. So they asked us, what is LARIBA? What does it mean? So we thought quickly on our feet, and I said, LA is Los Angeles, and R is reliable, and I is investment, and B is bankers, and A is associates. So it's the Los Angeles Reliable Investment Bankers Associates. So we got away with it, all right? And I'm not saying this to teach you how to fool people or something like that, but I'm sharing it with you because you need to communicate with people to the extent of their understanding. Then you can open doors and open windows, and through this you can build relationships that can be very, very productive. Because people get together because they respect each other, they love each other, and they make a difference in each other's lives. Today, the banking regulators in the United States think the world of us, and they have great respect for us, and they know exactly what we're doing, and they have copies of my book. Some of them actually call us and consult with us on the price of the house they want to buy, and that's the kind of cordial relationship that starts with opening up your heart and opening your mind and embracing people that you meet, because they are a gift from God to you to really enrich you and make a difference to you. This is essentially the story. And when we started LARIBA, we started it in a funny way. I went to the rich and affluent in the community, my friends. He said, Yahya, if you want donations for the masjid, for the mosque, we'll give it to you. But don't get me in that community mess because it's a big headache. I don't want it. So but I said, okay, I respect that. But we went to our very close, intimate friends, middle class, engineers, accountants, doctors, and so on. And I said, we need $10,000 of your money, or 20. And please don't hate me if I lose it. And we raised $200,000. And that was the beginning in 1987, 28 years ago. And today, by the grace of God, we have about 50 employees in the system. We have the finance company, we have a full-service national bank with offices in California and in Texas. We have a very active website, and please look it up, www.lariba.com and www.bankofwisdom.com. And we also own a full-service national bank, and we serve all 50 states of the United States of America. And we do everything. We finance automobiles, we finance homes, and we finance homes. We finance commercial buildings, we finance fast food stores. We have halal Kentucky Fried Chicken in America stores. We have ice cream stores, bagel shops, we have schools, we have Islamic centers throughout the United States, and churches throughout the United States. So we actually use this as an important window of presenting what the Prophet taught us at Din al-Mu'amala, which is faith is not about lecturing, it's not about talking, it's about dealing. How do you deal with me? How fair are you when you deal with me? And that is the name of the game, because real faith is not what you claim yourself to be, but it is what is entrenched in your heart and what is manifested by your actions. So if you want to know somebody, look at how he or she does business. Look at how he or she express themselves, and so on and so forth. And that's essentially what we did in America. We have trained a wonderful generation of young men and women to become riba-free bankers, and we present it as a discipline. Some people like to present it as your way to paradise. We tell everybody, we do not own the gates, the keys to the gates of heaven or hellfire. I don't own the keys to anything. All I want is when you invest with me, or when you seek my assistance to invest with you, to finance something that you need to finance, we want to make sure that it is done prudently. We want to make sure that it makes economic sense. We want to make sure that it is returning a good return, because you are looked upon as a trustee of whatever you are in charge of. Today you are not yet employed, but you'll be employed and you will have a salary. That salary is the extent of what God put you in charge of. And if you succeed, that responsibility will keep growing and growing and growing, and you'll be managing bigger and better funds. So we look at this as a test, as a responsibility from our Creator. So we present it to the world as a discipline, exactly the discipline of investing in large cap stocks or investing in small cap stocks, and so on and so forth. And we also went through a number of historic stages. When we started, it used to be called interest-free banking. And of course everybody said, oh, this is fantastic, I can go over there and I can get the money and keep it for 20 years and there's no interest in it. Well, in Islam, there's only one kind of loan, and that's the qard hasan, which is the benevolent loan, which is offered to people who need to, with the intention of not getting it. In other words, if I know Rahat name, so Rahat says, well, I need a qard hasan for 100,000 pounds. So I say, okay, Rahat, here's 100,000 pounds, and when do you give it to me? After 2 years. When you give that qard hasan, you are actually giving it to God. And if she doesn't pay me back, don't curse the word and the time that you've met Rahat, right? You just say that, that's the name of the game, and it is in the hands of Almighty God, and that's the thing. I want to go through my presentation quickly for the next 40 minutes, and then I'll open up for questions and answers, and as frank as you want. And let's start. This is my email address, and I respond to emails. I promise you promptly. And those who have dealt with me, they know that I do that. And this is yahrahman@bankofwhittier.com or at msn.com, which is a private email. Let's see if I can do that. You see here that we look at this responsibility as a movement. We really look at riba-free as a movement to invite people to live riba-free, a riba-free lifestyle. I will share with you what's the meaning of riba-free in RF. We went from interest-free to Islamic banking, and from Islamic banking to riba-free banking, and now we are on a mission to popularize it as RF banking. And the reason for that is we want to open it up for everybody, of all people, of all faith, of all backgrounds. And I say this because imagine if Barclays Bank or NatWest Bank went to Karachi or to Cairo or to Jeddah and you changed the names to the Jewish Christian Bank of England. What do you think would happen? Nobody would go because, they would say this is only for the people of the Jewish faith and the Christian faith. And this is exactly what we're doing when we call it Islamic. We exclusively give the impression that this is only for the Muslims and it doesn't deal with the non-Muslims. So we want to brand it as a service that has a discipline that has been proven and it adds value. And we call it RF banking. And when people ask us, R stands for riba-free. Riba is the name of renting money in the Quran. And ribit is the name in the Old Testament. Believe it or not, ribit is the name of interest and usury in the Old Testament. And in the Bible, And for those who do not believe in religion, we call it responsible finance. So that is what RF is all about, and I hope that will help us in the popularization of that concept. So we call it RF banking. The first question is, what is the definition of riba? And this has been a very challenging question that has been posed over the past, I say, 1,000 years. People have been asking, what is riba? And in my humble opinion, the reason why riba-free financing has not proliferated the market is exactly this, that there is not a clear definition that is designed to make the market, the masses, understand the meaning of riba. That has been popularized. I propose a very simple definition, and that is, riba is the act of renting money at a price called interest rate. Now, this is 25. It's a piece of paper, right? Of course, it has the Honorable Queen pictures on it, nice colors, 20 pounds, and everything else. Can you eat it? Can you drink it? Can it cover you when you are cold in the evening? It's just a piece of paper which is used as a medium of exchange. And it cannot be rented because the minute I give it to you, to Zahra, here, Zahra will use it, and if I ask back, because she's renting it from me, she will give me another paper. Maybe give me 2 tens or 4 fives. You understand what I mean? So it cannot be rented. It's exactly like a loaf of bread, like an orange or an apple. I can give you an apple, but I cannot rent an apple to you, because if you say, well, can you rent me an apple, I'll give you 5 pesos. And you will put the apple on your piano for a week, and then I say, well, can I get my apple back? It's going to be a spoiled apple. It's an old apple. It's been there for a week, so you cannot rent the apple. And by the same token, you cannot rent money. And that is what we call riba. Very simple definition. You can rent a car, you can rent a home, you can rent a business, you can rent an office, you can rent a piece of equipment, but you cannot rent money. And renting money is what riba is all about. And what we did, our slogan actually at the LARIBA system is, we do not rent money, we invest in you, and we invest with you. Now, when I started writing the book, I got a call in 2009 from John Wiley, which is one of the largest publishers in the world. And he said, we're looking for an American to write first book on Sharia finance. But I said, I'm not going to call it Sharia finance. And they said, why? I said, because the word Sharia actually triggers in the mind of the average American a number of bad images, thanks to the media. The first thing is shopping hands, polygamy, and. I'm not going to call it Sharia finance. So it took us some time to decide on the title of the book, which is The Art of RF, or Riba-Free Islamic Banking and Finance. It was published first in 2010, and 2 printings went out, about 12,000 copies. And then we have this new edition, and first printing is almost done, and we're doing the second printing. And I'm very thankful because it was on Amazon.com bestseller, the first edition. I don't know about the second edition records yet. First edition, bestsellers list, 10% top bestsellers list in its category. So it looks like somebody out there is interested in this subject. So money cannot be rented. It only can be invested. And I'm going to skip that. And like I said, we are a movement to propagate the idea of living within your means, what we call a riba-free lifestyle. And the second thing is, we need to tell people what is the value added of riba-free financing and riba-free banking. Now, Of course, one major value added is that you're fulfilling the requirements of your religion and your faith. But imagine you are dealing with a person who is not a Muslim. He will ask you, or she will ask you, what's the added value? What's in it for me? And we're going to share with you the real added value of the wisdom of riba-free financing. There is another important thing I want to talk to you about, and that is what the word you said. What is Sharia? Well, I happen to choose a new name for Sharia, and I call it the Judeo-Christian Islamic law. Because, and the book actually describes in details how we reached that decision. And the objective is to expand the definition of the Judeo-Christian societies in the West into Judeo-Christian Islamic societies based on the teachings of Islam, and I call it the law. And then we studied the religion and how, these are pictures of our offices in California. This is a retail branch in California. This is in Texas. And some pictures of what we financed. This is a school in Boston, Massachusetts. This is one of the newest Islamic centers in Frisco, in Texas, close to Dallas, Texas. And this is the St. Michael's Church in Rio Hondo, California. And this is the largest Islamic center close to the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, which has an Olympic-sized basketball arena. The first thing I did before I embarked on this work 28 years ago, I wanted to understand why Judaism, Christianity, and Islam agreed on the prohibition of renting money. So we studied the Torah and the Bible, both from a Catholic standpoint and from an evangelical standpoint, and we also studied the Quran. And to present Judaism and Christianity in its own image, we asked prominent people in the Jewish faith and in the Christian faith to do that. So the book is the first time describes the prohibition of the charging of interest in Judaism as depicted by a highly placed person, a rabbi, and a professor in the University of Judaism in Los Angeles. And in Catholicism, the same thing, and evangelical thought, and in Quran. Now, let me give you some interesting anecdotes that we discovered. If you look at the original teachings, Jewish teachings, if a person of the Jewish faith participates in the act of renting money, he cannot or she cannot stand as a witness in the Jewish court. And as a matter of fact, until today, in most, if not all, the synagogues around the world, they have interest-free lending societies. In Christianity, during the time of the Catholic Church, before it got diluted, it is prohibited to rent money. It was prohibited to rent money. And as a matter of fact, if a Catholic was in the business of renting money, he cannot get buried with the rest of the Catholics. He is denied Catholic burial. He can be excommunicated from the church. And of course, in Islam, it is one of the most heinous crimes. The next thing is how to define value in the market. Now, for instance, I'll give you a personal experience. I came here to England and I like Zero Coke. I don't know how many of you like Zero Coke. You like Zero Coke? No one? No one? No good. What about Coke? Regular Coke? No Coke? My goodness, that's
There's a boycott going on.
Yes, more advertising here on campus. But anyway, make a story short. You go and buy a bottle of Zero Coke, and it's 1.5 pounds. Actually, it's $1.50. Right? So my point is, if you take a number and you put $1 in front of it, you are in America. You put a pound in front of it, you are in England. You put a euro in front of it, you are in Germany. And that exchange rate stuff really doesn't make any difference in the everyday needs. A McDonald's, a Burger King, a sandwich, and so on and so forth. I bought a tuna fish sandwich at Paddington Station, and I think I paid £3.70, which is the same, $3.70. So the question is, how you define value? If you go out and buy a house, is this house reflecting, the price of it reflects its real value to you? Because you measure it in dollars, but actually it may be overpriced. How do you know if the price is too much? And that is the challenge that many economists and many bankers have been faced with. And we think we have a discipline that can reveal how you can do that. And that's based on the discipline of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, Prophet, as you know, used to manage caravans, trading caravans, because during his time, the trading business grew, and actually they used to travel from Arabia into Africa, and Ethiopia, into India, into China, into Persia, and so on and so forth. And in every one of these locations, they were trading using a different currency. So the challenge that the traders were faced with was how you distribute the profit and loss fairly, right? Because the currency in Ethiopia is different from the currency in Persia, and so on and so forth. So the Prophet had a discipline. He said that we are going to have a certain number of commodities that would be our standard reference measuring devices. These are gold and silver, what we call the pricing commodities, because they represent a store of value, and staple foods. Staple foods, these are the basic foods that if you live on them, you will survive. And at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there were 4: wheat, barley, dates, and salt. So at his time he said that these you cannot toy with, you cannot speculate with, because they are going to be your reference calibrating standards. By this I mean, you say, Yahya, how much do you weigh? I say I weigh 186 pounds. What is a pound? A pound is a piece of precious metal that is sitting in the London Museum of Measurements, second edition, and I'm saying that I weigh 186 times that little ball that's sitting there. Maybe I have never seen that ball. Maybe you have never seen that ball. But it's a reference, and you cannot toy with it. You cannot make it bigger, you cannot make it smaller, by participating in things like the futures market and the options market. How? Because if I deal with her in gold, like I said, this is a silver ring, and I give it to her, and I say, well, can I give you this? Yeah, but you have to give me back silver. Whatever there in silver, you give it back to me in silver. Immediately, and you cannot write me a little promissory note saying, I owe you. Because the minute I have a promissory note on silver, what can I do? I can go and sell it to him. Maybe it's worth $100. I say, well, can you give me $50 for it? Because I really need the money. And then you take it to another person, you sell it for 60. Then you suddenly have created a futures market that has toyed with the standard. So if I say 186 pounds today, using the fluctuations in the pound, I might say I'm 186 pounds and I have gained so much weight. And you say, well, yeah, but you look much heavier than 186 pounds. Well, I'm 186 pounds. Well, but the fact of the matter is that pound has been stretching or shrinking and so on and so forth, and nobody knows about it. So the whole idea is to have a reference that does not change. And that was the 2 precious metal commodities and the 4 staple food commodities. For instance, in England, I think you don't eat much rice, do you, England? You mostly eat bread, right? So it's mostly wheat, right? You go to Asia, if you come from India and Pakistan, you eat a lot of biryani, right? No? You don't eat biryani in England? No, there's biryani. So in China, there is rice, and so on and so forth. So, and because these are so important, and they cannot be toyed with, then they are the ones that we use as a reference. The second thing that was very interesting to discover was the definition of the market value. So, Sayyidina Bilal, he was an African slave, and he was freed by the Prophet ﷺ. And he was the person who called for the prayers, the adhan, Sayyidina Bilal. And he was from Ethiopia. And he knew that the Prophet loved the large, juicy dates. And the dates that were available in the community were the humble, low quality, because they were poor. So one day he went to the Prophet with 3 high quality dates called Khaybar dates. And he gave them the gift to the Prophet. So the Prophet said, Bilal, you do not have the money to buy these dates. How did you do that? He said, well, I went with 20 small, low quality dates in the market, and I exchanged them for the 3 dates. The Prophet said, you have just committed riba. You have just violated the discipline. Why? Because what he did, he exchanged, now we're talking about dates as the standard, right? As the reference standard. So now we have changed 3 for 10, or 3 for 20, and it should be 3 for 3. So the Prophet said the way to do this is to price it in the market. Take the small dates, exchange them for gold, exchange them for silver, exchange them for something else, and take the proceeds and buy the large dates. This way you define value based on the market forces of supply and demand. And that thing we have done as a discipline, we call it in the book, the commodity indexation discipline. And I'll tell you how valuable it is. Before I do that, let me give you a little bit of history. At the time of Moses, may God's peace and praise be upon him, the Hebrews were enslaved in Egypt. How? They needed money to survive. And if they don't pay, then the owner of the cash or the money will say, come and work for me in lieu of the money that you owe me. Then automatically he or she became slaves. So slavery was rampant. During the time of Jesus, slavery and agrarian societies were the order of the day. Why? Owners of money, of capital, would lend money, and if you don't pay because of famine or drought, then they would go and confiscate your land. Instead of having 100 acres, then you have 1,000 acres, and so on and so forth. In the time of the Prophet, trading was the order of the day, international trade. But then he was faced with another challenge. The challenge was that the trader wanted money. He needed money. Not because he was poor or she was poor. They needed money because they wanted to expand their business. What we call today going to the capital market and getting money from the capital market in terms of shareholdership or in terms of bonds, borrowing in the market. So the Prophet's passion was to deal riba-free, not to participate in the riba activities. So what did he do? He said, no problem, I'm going to start another discipline, and we'll call that the joint venture discipline, the musharaka discipline. It was pioneered by the Prophet ﷺ and was loved by many of the Jewish rabbis. In fact, one very prominent Jewish rabbi, his name is Maimonides, Moses Maimonides. He took the concept, translated it, put in the Talmud, and actually used by the Eastern European people of the Jewish faith who were very much discriminated against to conduct trade and flourish and grow the business. And they called it Heter Eska. So I just wanted to tell you that what we're trying to promote, what we're trying to present, is not something that is new. Something that's been tested and tried, and what we're trying to do, we're trying to put life in it again. But back to the commodity indexation discipline. We said, let us test what that means. So we took the prices in dollars, and we said, what's a dollar? It's a piece of paper printed by the government of the United States. What's a pound? A piece of paper printed by the government of England. We're going to take all of this paper out and refer them to our reference point. That reference can be gold, can be silver, can be rice. Rice? Well, imagine that this city here deals only in rice. So if I want to buy a sandwich, I'll take a sack of rice, I'll give it to you, and you'll give me a sandwich. If I want to buy a home, I'll go to you, I'll give you 100 sacks of rice, and you give me a home, and so on and so forth. So the question was asked, if we were buying the house, if we were buying oil, if we were buying anything in terms of the commodities that are reference commodities, how value can be looked at. And here's what we found. This is the price of rice between 1986 and 1968 and 2012. Look at the price of rice, up and down, in US dollars. So we said, let us normalize it, take the dollar out, and express it in gold. This is the price of rice in gold. What do you see here? You know, if you are a rice farmer here, you will tell me, yeah, you know, your rice price has gone up so much, you must be swimming in money. But the fact of the matter is, farmers are not swimming in money. Actually, farmers do not want to be farmers anymore. Farmers want to abandon farming. They tell their kids, don't be farmers, go and work in the city and be an IT expert and so on and so forth, because this is not a very rewarding business, and that's the reason why. The reason is that the value of rice expressed in the pricing commodities has precipitously declined big time. And as a matter of fact, the farmer is getting the short end of the stick. If we express prices in terms of substitutable commodities, rice can substitute wheat, and wheat can substitute rice, the ratio is essentially constant. By the way, this is what we call the channel of the regular fluctuations of supply and demand. This is the minimum price, and this is the maximum price. Anytime you cross over, then there is a bubble here. And then, let me show you this is the price of gold in US dollars. Gold went up, and then declined, then up, and then this is the price. This is the price of homes in US dollars. Look at that. It's progressively going higher. It comes down a little bit and up. We said, let us take the dollar out and price it in gold. Look at what you see. And these are all wonderful research subjects that have never been touched yet. And I invite those who would like to do a master's degree or a PhD degree to consider these subjects. This is the price in gold. It's not going up all the time. Look at that. It's fluctuating up and down. This is what we call the fair market value band, all right, which we use technical analysis to define. So anytime the price is above that band, then there is a bubble in the value of homes. This is not a good time to buy homes. When it comes down, like this, outside the channel, then this is a great time to buy a home. And this is the bubble of 2005, 2006, 2008. As a matter of fact, since 2006, we have advised all of our customers to be careful in many markets in the United States. In Arizona, in Nevada, in Boston, Massachusetts, in many other parts of the United States. And we advise them not to buy because there is a bubble in the pricing and the value does not reflect the real value as we use our discipline. In 2008, of course, it went down, it became a great buying opportunity, and it still is a good buying opportunity in the United States. The other thing that we use for the added value is oil. This is the value of oil in dollars per barrel. As you can see, oil price went up. This is the Islamic revolution of Iran, jumped, and it went up and then down, and up and down. And this is the speculation in the futures market when oil went to 157 in 2008, and then down and up. And then we said, let's take the dollar out and price it in gold. Remember, this is ever going up. Look at what you will see. It's not going up anymore. It fluctuates up and down. This is amazing. Nobody wrote about this. And this is something that actually shows you the added value. So, when we published a book in 2010, oil prices were $120. And we said that oil is going to come down to $65 to $75. And gold was in fact going at $1,760. And we said that gold should go down to $850. Not because we are good predictors, but we apply the discipline of the commodity indexation. And as a matter of fact, now gold is selling at about 1,100, 1,200. Oil is selling at about 45.50. We think that oil will stabilize at 65 to 75, and we think that gold will go down to $800 an ounce. So this is the value of the commodity indexation, and this is the attempt of us in the Riba-Free movement to live actually by defining the value of things. I will go faster. I always tell people about a good investment opportunity. Natural gas. Look at natural gas. It is way underpriced. Way underpriced. It's a great time to buy natural gas stocks for your children, inshallah. 10 years, 15 years time, you'll be very rich. So here's what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing and we're working on now is how do you define the value of a currency? Now, if you look at the currency of any country in the world, it really is called different names. Baht in Thailand, Tenge in Kazakhstan, Riyal in Saudi Arabia and Iran, and. But they are really nice pieces of paper with different colors and different names and pictures of kings and princes on it. But the fact of the matter is, it is a cover for the dollar. It's actually a dollar, but colored a different way. What we want to do, we want to get the value of this currency based on the production matrix of that country. So if the country is producing wheat and rice and oil and so on and so forth, we'd like to put that in a matrix so we can reflect the value, the real value of that currency, and that's the value of the value added index. So this is a very important factor in preventing you from participating in a price bubble. Buying a home for $200,000 and the bubble is burst and it is selling for $120,000 and you can't do anything about it. You are living in a house which actually you have over-borrowed to buy and you don't know what, we call it under the water. The second thing we talk about in the book is social responsibility. What we want to advocate in our movement is to live within your means. Credit cards. Let me tell you the history of credit cards. When I was a young man, when I just graduated from Wisconsin, I applied for an American Express card. It used to be called a charge card. What does it mean? You go to the store, you buy what you want, it is charged to the card, and you are expected to pay the charge back before the end of the month. And this is done as a service for a fee, a membership fee or a monthly fee to pay to American Express. Now came Visa, and they said, we can do better by letting people not pay in a month, let them pay over a year, and we charge them through the nose. Now, do you know that, I don't know if they have these advertisements here in the United Kingdom or not, but a Visa would offer you to transfer all of your loans or all of your debt from MasterCard to Visa at 0% rate. We had this advertised here in the UK. And they said this is an introductory offer for 6 months, 0%. Oh, mashallah, it's riba-free. I am doing riba-free, all right? And then, on the 7th month, they charge you 9%. And you dare miss a payment. If you miss one payment, you know how much the rate goes up to? To 25 to 32%. Do you know that 70% of the income of most of the banks in the world, they do not come from investing in industry. They do not come from investing in homes and so on. They come from credit card debt, fees. Why? Because we have two industries that go hand in hand. The mass media industry, which invites you to buy things. Buy a Beamer. You will look good. Everybody will be happy with you. You will impress people. Drive a Beamer, right? You will impress that girl. She will really like you. Or you will impress that boy I'm driving a Beamer. Or wear a pair of Dana Carman, or whatever her name was, jeans, or expensive shoe. Tell you about the shoes. I was in New York walking with a friend of mine who is actually well-to-do. And on Fifth Avenue there was a body. You know the body shoes? Everybody knows what the body shoe is, right? Expensive shoes. So we walked in the store, and the salesman kept talking to him and talking to him, and he sold him 2 pairs of shoes. So we came out of the store and he said, Yahia, did you notice that this man never talked to you and he always talked to me? I said, of course. He said, why do you think? I said, because he looked at my shoes and looked at your shoes. And he knew who buys body and who buys inexpensive shoes. Fact of the matter is, that salesman may be the only one who will know if this is an expensive shoe or not. So this is a consumption industry that invites you to consume, and the credit cards. So they create that oomph inside you. I need to buy this. I'm going to buy this. But I don't have the money. Don't worry. Credit card is here. Come in, I will pay. Do you know that if you make the minimum payment on a credit card payment, you know, how many of you has a credit card? Don't be embarrassed. I have. I have a number of them, but I paid for them. How many? You don't have a credit card? You don't have a credit card? You don't have a credit card? And then we talk about the LARIBA finance model, and we can talk about that later on in the question and answer session. And then the branding, which is something that we're working on. We have a number of chapters that are very important in the book. How do you transform a riba-based bank into a riba-free bank? One thing that we tell people, and the regulators love it, is when you open a checking account with a riba-free bank, that checking account money actually is looked upon as a trust, as an aman. We cannot invest it. So it sits on the books, uninvested, only invested in the Fed funds with the federal government. And we cannot invest it in projects. So if your deposits are 15 to 20% in checking accounts, you cannot do that. So you'll have that cash sitting down doing nothing. You only can invest money that is allowed to be invested by the owner of the money in the form of a certificate of deposit and so on and so forth. In addition to many other things, I'll be glad to sign the book for you. All the proceeds will go to the Islamic Finance and Ethic Society. And I think it's 30 pounds, but if you don't have 30 pounds, whatever you can afford. I was a student and I know so what the situation is. Whatever you can afford, and it's all for the Ethics Society. I don't collect the money, they collect the money. So thank you very much. Appreciate your listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.